not young men falling in love with images of far places. And that's how I think you need me. I have a feeling you need me. And I'm going to watch you the next 10 years, and as the years pass, you're going to need me even more, and I'm going to come back and help you, okay? Because we all feel the same way about what we're doing. In other words, I'm a writer of science fictions and fantasies, and you are people of theories, and I've watched you today, and I've watched your theories collide and sink out of sight. And I think you need me. I have a feeling you need me. And I'm going to watch you the next 10 years, and as the years pass, you're going to need me even more, and I'm going to come back and help you, okay? Because we all feel the same way about what we're doing. In other words, I'm a writer of science fictions and fantasies, and you are people of theories, and I've watched you today, and I've watched your theories collide and sink out of sight, and I've watched little flurries of emotion here and there, which I've delighted in because I work the same way, and you like to kid yourselves that you're above all that, but you're not, and thank God for that, huh? So I sympathize, and where I think we all meet is in that we, early in our lives, if I could remind you of your own beginnings tonight and send you back to what you were 15, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, depending on your own ages, and to what I was 40 years ago when I was 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, and fell in love with various science magazines, science fiction magazines, and said to my friends, this is the way I have to go. This is the way I have to be. This is what I love. This is what I'm excited about. So if I can remind you tonight of your own root systems, where you all began many years ago, I will have done you a favor, because some of you have forgotten, not all of you, but some of you have forgotten how you began, with emotions, not with data. You began with simple data collected out of the same magazines where I started my life. But you started with an emotion, didn't you? When you were 8 or 9 or 10 years old, or 11, as children, falling in love with a very strange thing. And in my own case, I remember looking through the old copies of the American Weekly magazine. Some of you don't even know what I'm talking about when I say this. But you older people remember that in the late 30s and the early 30s and the late 20s, the Hearst magazines every Sunday published in 7 colors paintings of far planets, of Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn, every single Sunday, so that we young boys picking up that weekly magazine fell in love with these strange illustrations. That's very important to recognize the need and the feeding of the hunger of the young on the articulation that we find in the arts, and not to turn our backs on that, because these are ways of selling our ideas to one another, saying, hey, this is what I dream, this is the way it looks. We haven't been there yet. We haven't even got the machinery. My God, when I fell in love with all this, Goddard hadn't even fired off his first rocket, which went, what, a couple hundred feet? Down in the White Sands in the early 30s, with a load of mail on it, which you have to pay thousands of dollars today to own one stamp, huh? But that's how it started, this primitive thing of young boys, not young men, falling in love with images of far places. And that's how I began. And I know that you all have the same thing in you. But along the way, you've gotten so busy with facts and with data that you sometimes forget that person that you were and the person that you still are, and the most incredible moment that we all share together. And what is that? The moment each night when we go to bed, especially as young people, and dream ourselves into existence. Dream ourselves into a possible occupation with something exciting, something grandiose, something beyond belief. And we lie there in our beds and say, oh, God, if I could only do this, if I could only act out that illustration that I saw on the covers of Amazing Stories in 1928, or Astounding Stories in 1929, 1930. And then each of us grows up and becomes part of that thing. And then we turn back and say, I'll be damned, look, it's happening to me. It happened here today. I'm sitting among you, and you're talking about these things which were impossible, most of them 14 years ago, 13 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago. And suddenly we have the equipments. So recently did we develop the chemistries that made the metals possible to build the shield to come back from space. We didn't have that a few years ago. Until we built it, until we created it, we couldn't go out into space with men because there was no way of bringing them back. And I remember reading articles 15 years ago saying, we'll never go into space because we can't invent the plastic shield to protect our dreamers back from the dream. And suddenly we have that shield to protect the dreamers. And I remember 30 years ago being on a bus going to New York City when we were worried about the sound barrier. We were never going to break through the sound barrier. And if we did, we'd go mad. Remember that? Remember that? Yeah. Or it would shake our bones apart and our marrow would come out and clot around our brain. You know, something horrible would happen. Our wives would go mad on Earth, you know. The same moment we broke the sound barrier. And all our children would run amok in the street. But it's so recent, isn't it? And we forget to turn back to those years. I remember 22 years ago going to New York City, and I went to a party one night, and I was introduced in a disparate group of people. They split into two halves. In one room, there were a bunch of writers and reporters. In the other room was a bunch of dancers from the New York City Ballet. Very strange evening. And they found out what I did for a living. And when they found out I wrote science fiction, they called me Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon for the rest of that night, Well, we've all had to put up with that sort of thing in our lifetimes. And I got a list of these people. And if I ever meet them, zing, boy, are they going to get it, Because I was right and they were wrong, right? And you were right and everyone else was wrong. Isn't that our history? And we share this common thing of being despised and looked down upon by everyone in our whole society. And we are a small band of people here tonight who had the dream and have lived to see it begin to come true. And that's why you've asked me here, because I dream well, I imagine well, I fantasize well, and I can help you in the years ahead, because you're in the hands of NASA. And I've been there too. And I've had those long, droning lunches, and in which they promise to lie down for me, and they never do. So we have to stay in touch with each other in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because we are all writing the same book together. We're all creating the same masterpiece together. Today and yesterday and tomorrow, you will imagine that you are active about the planet Mars. That's not really what you're doing. That's a step on the way to what you're finally doing, the activity that we all share together. And what we're all doing together is saving mankind and creating him in the universe for the next 2 billion years. And Mars is simply a step to that. So I try to remind people when I see them, that's really what we're up to. But we wish to survive. The reason we wish to survive is we love the gift of life. No matter how much we may pretend to be atheists or agnostics or any other label you want to put on yourself, the fact is you wouldn't be doing what you're doing, I don't believe, 9 out of 10 of you here tonight, if you didn't like being alive. That's the real secret. If you didn't relish the gift of life that's been passed into your hands and the responsibility that comes with it. I feel responsible to my genetics. There are 2 of me in here, inside this skin. There's the person who writes and does what he's done for a lifetime now. And there's the person on the other side of me who looks and sees what I write and likes it and sees that it is good. And I love being inside my skin with myself. And I hope you like being inside your skin with yourselves. It's the greatest gift a man can have. To have the 2 sides of himself agree and say, well done.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey everybody, audio check. Let me know that you can hear me. The ULA live stream will begin in 5 minutes.
And we'll type that in here in the bottom right corner so we get those up close views and instantaneous updates. Welcome to the NASA ITL Causeway. We're so excited you guys are here with us. We are just about, 35 minutes from liftoff. I don't know if you were here with me yesterday, but Mary
Launch director.
Launch vehicle is ready to launch.
We have ignition.
You have permission to launch.
1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket.
Mach 1, execute, and we have an indication of spacecraft separation.
At Space Launch Complex 41, an Atlas V rocket is fueled and ready to launch the USSF-7 mission of the 6th X-37B orbital test vehicle flight for the Department of the Air Force. Good morning and welcome to Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. I'm Tyler Strickland, a trajectory engineer from ULA's mission design team. We have two 10-minute windows available today. The first opens at 9:14 a.m. Eastern and the second at 10:52 a.m. The count is currently in a planned 30-minute hold. There are two planned holds in our nearly 7-hour launch count. The holds give our team additional time to resolve any issues prior to entering the terminal count. At this time, the team is not working any issues, and we are proceeding towards an on-time liftoff. This morning's launch is part of the America Strong series, a collaborative salute from the Space Force and ULA to recognize healthcare workers, first responders, and other essential personnel. We'll talk about this more in a few minutes. Jessica Williams, the 45th Space Wing's weather officer, recently briefed the launch team on current weather conditions here at Cape Canaveral. The probability of violating launch constraints is 10%. The ground winds are 10 to 15 knots out of the northwest, and the temperature is 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So the weather is much better than we had yesterday, and it is within the launch commit criteria and looks favorable for the planned T0 of 9:14 a.m. Eastern. At the request of our customer, this morning's live coverage will conclude following confirmation of engine start on the Centaur upper stage. In addition to the orbital test vehicle, today's flight also includes Falcon Sat 8, an educational platform for cadets carrying 5 experimental payloads that will be operated by the Cadet Space Operations Squadron from the U.S. Air Force Academy and sponsored by the Air Force Research Laboratory. We also have 2 NASA experiments to study the results of radiation and other space effects on a materials sample plate and seeds to grow food. And we have an experiment from the Naval Research Laboratory to transform solar power into radio frequency microwave energy, which could then be transferred to the ground. Let's take a look at events from liftoff through main engine start. And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket.
The Atlas V RD-180 engine ignites and generates 3.83 meganewtons, or 860,200 pounds of thrust, to lift the rocket away from the pad. Shortly after liftoff, Atlas begins a pitchover to attain the proper flight path, while minimizing the pressure the vehicle experiences during flight. Within the first couple minutes of flight, the Atlas V reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound. Approaching payload fairing jettison, the Atlas V is burning propellant at a rate of 719 kilograms, or 1,585 pounds per second, traveling more than 9,500 kilometers, or 5,900 miles per hour, and located 112 kilometers, or 69 miles in altitude, and 116 kilometers, or 72 miles downrange. During ascent, the X-37B orbital test vehicle is protected inside a 5-meter diameter payload fairing. This 2-piece shell encapsulates both the Centaur upper stage and the X-37B. Once the vehicle is climbed above the densest part of Earth's atmosphere, the payload fairing is jettisoned. Following jettison of the payload fairing, propellant levels deplete and the booster engine shuts down. Following booster engine cutoff, the Atlas Centaur separation system activates to release the booster stage. The vehicle now weighs a little more than 15% of what it did at liftoff. The Centaur main engine is then started to begin second stage flight. Following main engine start, Centaur continues on to deliver the X-37B to begin its classified mission.
ULA is using the Atlas V 501 configuration to launch the X-37B. This is the 84th flight of the Atlas V rocket in ULA's 139th mission. Produced in ULA's 1.6 million square foot factory in Decatur, Alabama, The 501 is comprised of a common core booster powered by an RD-180 engine and a Centaur second stage powered by an Aerojet Rocketdyne RL-10C1 engine. A RUAG 5-meter diameter payload fairing protects the X-37B orbital test vehicle during ascent. On April 23rd, the Atlas V first stage was transported to the Vertical Integration Facility, or VIF, at Space Launch Complex 41, where cranes lifted the 33-meter or 107-foot-long booster onto the Mobile Launch Platform, or MLP. 2 days later, the pre-assembled interstage adapter, Centaur upper stage, and lower half of the payload fairing was delivered to the VIF and lifted atop the Atlas V booster. The stacking of the rocket was completed on May 5th, when the X-37B, encapsulated in a payload fairing, was mated to the Centaur. Atlas V launch countdowns begin with moving the rocket from the VIF to the pad. At approximately 10 a.m. Thursday, the quarter-mile trip began using 6 components to complete the 20-minute trip. Weighing in at about 2 million pounds, the Mobile Launch Platform, or MLP, supports the rocket and contains air conditioning, electrical, and commodities, while the undercarriages bear the weight of the MLP and rocket. 2 rail cars lead the move, with the payload van providing communication to the payload, while the ground van houses the ground support for the rocket. At the rear of the convoy, the portable environmental control system provides air conditioning to the payload and rocket. Finally, trackmobiles provide the power to move the convoy. The Atlas V rocket stands about 60 meters or 20 stories and weighs about 346,000 kilograms or 760,000 pounds fully fueled. The X-37B Orbital Test Vehicle is an experimental test platform managed by the Department of the Air Force Rapid Capabilities Office. Let's take a look at this unique program.
2019 at the forefront, touching down, sleeting ahead, setting records for time and orbit. This is the X-37B, our country's only reusable spaceplane. Project and pride of the U.S. Air Force and Boeing. It launches into low Earth orbit and stays there as needed for as long as it takes to get the job done. The X-37B has ensured America's superiority across air and space, and it's come home again and again and again. Poised to advance and grow, meeting critical challenges, it flies safely, autonomously, and sustainably. This is innovation moving humankind forward. This is the X-37B.
United Launch Alliance has successfully launched 4 previous orbital test vehicle missions. So let's look back at those missions as we count down to the next one. On April 22, 2010, the first flight of the Atlas V 501 rocket successfully launched the maiden flight of the orbital test vehicle for the U.S. Air Force. Launched on March 5, 2011, the second OTV mission for the X-37B program was in support of space experimentation, risk reduction, and concept of operations development for long-duration and reusable space vehicle technologies. On December 11, 2012, ULA's Atlas V rocket again successfully boosted an X-37B into space. The rocket's 5-meter diameter payload fairing protected the OTV during an atmospheric ascent, and the Centaur upper stage injected the payload into the desired orbit. And ULA's 4th OTV mission launched on May 20, 2015, from right here at Cape Canaveral. As we continue to do our part to slow the spread of COVID-19, protecting the health and safety of the launch team is a top priority. We continue to follow CDC and local guidelines, including increased physical distancing between individuals sitting on console and wearing face coverings where practical. As I mentioned earlier, the USSF-7 launch carries a special dedication. Together with the Space Force, ULA is honoring healthcare workers, first responders, and other essential personnel on the front lines. And with this launch, we also stand in solidarity with those personally suffering or experiencing loss due to the virus. America Strong is a national salute to all those that have given so much during this pandemic. The Department of Defense and United Launch Alliance salute each American serving on the front lines in our fight against COVID-19. We are all in this together. Following liftoff, a few special guests will share their perspective on the role of our heroes in this fight. With today's flight, the Boeing OTV spacecraft team also wishes to remember one of their own, who recently lost his battle with cancer. Vincent, Vinny de la Torre, was a key member of the OTV propulsion team, who served on the launch and recovery teams for more than a decade. Thank you, Vinny, for all you did to make Boeing and the OTV successful.
OSM, verify the FCO, RCO, and OSM hold fire switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
Redline monitor, verify redline monitor and event table are in the correct configuration for terminal count.
Verified.
RC, verify solar radiation acceptable for launch.
Verified.
L minus 9 minutes.
Before we pull the team, let's watch a quick message from Leanne Corrett, President and CEO of Boeing Defense, Space, and Security.
To everyone supporting today's historic launch of the X-37B, thank you. On behalf of the entire Boeing company, I want to express my appreciation for your work to achieve this critical mission. Since the X-37B's launch in 2010, it has shattered all expectations. Every time it launches into space, it achieves firsts. And there is no other program that provides our nation an unrivaled capability to rapidly test and integrate new space technologies. None of these achievements would have been possible without your hard work and dedication. Good luck today. Thank you for everything you do. Stay safe and be well. Go Atlas, go Centaur, go SF-7, and go X-37B.
All steps are complete prior to the status check.
We remain in the planned 30-minute hold as we continue towards liftoff. In a few moments, launch conductor Dylan Rice will pull the launch.
All right, everybody. Doing a quick mic check right now, and then we'll give you a little bit of a tour. Let me know that you can hear me. They were scared by the lady.
Yeah, we'll just leave the mic on.
Oh, it's a little loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. I know that I was a little hot, so I'm going to back off the mic just a little bit. Hopefully you can still hear all right. Good.
Okay.
Hey,
Hey, welcome. It's so great that we're all here together.
can you hear Ryan? That's the next question. Keep talking.
I'm sure they'll be able to. Yeah, welcome to the NASA ITL Causeway. We're about just on about 2 miles maybe away from the ULA Space Launch Complex 41, and we are getting ready for the United Launch Alliance Atlas V liftoff with the U.S. Space Force X-37B long distance, long duration space plane. So it's a really exciting Atlas mission. It's a beautiful rocket. You can check it out in the telescope view. We've got sunlight hitting just the right side of it, and it just is gorgeous. So we've got a few minutes here. I'm going to give you a quick tour. Let me switch views.
You might need to speak just a little louder.
Okay.
And you know what? I'll just follow you around with this. How about that?
Sure.
Do this. Sorry for the noise, folks.
Facility power to internal battery power. At T-minus 1 minute and 55 seconds.
All goes have been given. Awesome. Starman, thank you so much for being like the best unofficial moderator of all time.
At T-minus 1 minute and 40
All right, let's do this thing. We're good so far. I'll go.
And arm the flight termination system.
Are we going to get the hand cam?
Tanks will be verified
Awesome.
pressures, followed by verification of Centaur tank
Hand cam coming at ya.
Final status check with Atlas, Centaur, and USSF-7 readiness.
All right, so I want to show you guys.
So I want to show you guys
the telescope setup. This is a Meade LX200, and the amazing thing is with the camera on the back, it's like having a 4,000 millimeter zoom lens. So this is an awesome collaboration with Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, OPT Telescopes, AstroFerg. Yeah, super grateful, and we're able to carry all this gear out here to the beautiful NASA ITL Causeway. Here's our fellow space media professionals.
Fellow space media professionals.
Here.
We're all lined up.
We're here,
This
bunch
is
of
Atlas
news
mission
crews,
control at T-4 minutes and holding.
and we all bring a unique view and different perspective.
Time will be T-minus
We're excited to throw our hat in the ring.
3,
So this is all controlled by 2 joysticks here. I've got throttle on the left and positioning, pitch and roll on the right. And I've got a tiny screen here that's giving me an up-close view kind of outside of the stream, so I don't have to worry about a delay. So that's coming right from the telescope camera here. This is going through my tablet. And then we're doing stream operations through this laptop here, so we got a dual screen setup. And then MaryLiz on the chat, moderator, and checking on the stream on a second laptop.
Keeping an eye on Twitter. Here we are. Isn't it the most beautiful place? It's like a place that I would go. I would definitely vacation to a place like this, but we get to come out here all the time. It's so beautiful. Very peaceful. Sometimes you get to see an alligator in the water or some beautiful wildlife. It's just unreal. Oh, they want the bag cam back.
Oh.
Don't wish too hard for the bag cam. We might have to use it.
Right, be careful what you wish for.
It's pretty cloudy here, but I see just over the pad, it looks like it's really clearing up. I see a gorgeous blue sky. So, fingers crossed, folks.
Okay, you're in front speech mode. I just switched the views, so you're in the front now.
Oh, hey, everybody.
See everybody? You can see the front side of us instead of the back side
There
of
you
us.
go. It's a little better.
Probably a better view.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't believe that shot. It's so crazy.
And we'll bring the telescope view back when it's time. And then we'll have just a few minutes right after launch. Usually right after launch happens, we have to very quickly pack up and leave. But we'll do our best to try to give you a slow motion replay of the rocket launch. And we'll really hope that Ryan is able to track the rocket with the telescope, no issues. So that'll be fun. We'll see what we get.
2 minutes.
T-minus 1 minute 40 seconds.
Okay, we're going to switch the other view. Ready?
Launch enabled 137.
FTS on.
Okay, this will be the view for liftoff.
T-minus 90 seconds. The launch vehicle, payload, ground systems,
Gonna
and
turn
eastern
the
range are go for launch.
ULA stream up a little bit.
Great.
Sure we can check in with
T-minus
those
1 minute
guys.
20 seconds.
I'm going to dial
OC's
in the
armed.
countdown nets as well.
Okay.
FPS count started 115.
All right, and then 2 minutes.
Reduce
About 2
CCS
minutes,
for
right?
launch. Roger.
2
110.
minutes. You ready, buddy?
Vent valves locked.
Let's do it. You
Ready.
guys ready?
Ready.
All right. Yes, Calvin is here. Thank God you made
T-minus
it.
1 minute.
All right,
Rock,
buddies.
report range
Let's do
status.
it.
Range green.
Camera's recording. Buddy's getting on the joystick controls. I'm going to let ULA take us out for a minute, okay? Turn myself down.
T-minus 40 seconds.
Table at step 3.
1 minute. You ready, buddy?
28
Okay,
seconds.
there we go.
25.
CCS reduced for launch. Status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Space Force 7.
Go on. Go on.
T-minus
Oh,
10,
launched.
9,
Listen for
8,
the sound. Here it comes.
7, 6,
Wow.
5, 4,
Yes.
3, 2, 1. There's ignition.
Wow, that was so
And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket with USSF-7 for the United States Space Force on a mission dedicated to America Strong.
Good. RD-180 has gone to closed loop propellant utilization control.
You are hearing the voice of Rob Kesselman providing launch vehicle ascent data.
Vehicle body rates look good. Now, 35 seconds into flight. Atlas is now just under 1 mile in altitude, traveling at 900 miles. Engine pump speeds and injector pressures are in band for this thrust level. The vehicle has now completed the pitch yaw roll program. Now 70 seconds into flight. Atlas is now 4 miles in altitude, going 4 miles downrange distance, traveling at 1,200 miles per hour. Vehicle has passed Mach 1. Vehicle is now passing through maximum dynamic pressure, max Q.
so cool that we did the ULA.
RD-180 is now throttling down slightly as commanded. Pump speed response looks good. Now 115 seconds into flight. We're now 14 miles in altitude, 5.6 miles downrange distance, traveling at 2,000 miles per hour.
It was crazy.
Did you get the lift off?
Yeah. I moved a little too early.
Vehicle has now begun closed loop steering.
Yeah, we definitely got it coming off the pad.
The vehicle is now half the weight it was at liftoff, burning propellant at a rate of more than 2,600 pounds per second.
All right, we're going to do our best to do a really quick
Approximately
replay.
2 minutes remaining in the Atlas booster phase of flight.
Which will probably be quick. Because it
Sensor reaction system is now pressurizing flight levels. Atlas is now throttling to maintain 2.5 G acceleration limit. Now 180 seconds into flight. Vehicle is 44 miles in altitude, 40 miles downrange distance, traveling at 4,500 miles per hour. Approximately 1 minute to BECO.
ready to go. All right, audio's back. We are going to do a
Standing by
replay
for payload fairing
really
jettison.
quickly before we pack up very quickly and head out.
Indication of payload fairing jettison. And sensor forward load reactor has also jettisoned successfully. Atlas is now throttling up to a 4.6 G acceleration limit.
Pump this into number 1.
Okay.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
Centaur has begun the boost phase chill down sequence. Atlas is now at 4.6 Gs and maintaining that acceleration limit.
There you go.
Okay. Switching over.
EU has gone to closed loop control.
All right, we've got liftoff
Boost phase
footage
chill down
coming at
complete.
you.
We have BECO, booster engine cutoff. Standing by for stage separation. Stage set, we have successful stage separation. Restart on the RL-10. We have ignition, MES 1.
See if we can get those umbilicals detaching. Oh, it's so close. I know I moved too early.
Centaur has now
Ryan,
begun the first
if you
2
hear
RFM
Ryan,
burns in today's
he
mission.
moved a little too early.
Recently, I had a chance to speak with Boeing's
It's
Jim
coming soon.
Chilton about the X-37B.
I think this
Jim
is the right
was
file.
over
Hold on.
in Boeing's Mission Control Center at the Kennedy Space Center. Let's
Skipping
take a
ahead
look.
is difficult. It jumps so fast. This
Thanks for
camera's
joining me,
not,
Jim.
not great for reviewing.
As you know, this is a
So
special
just gonna
launch
let it play
dedicated
for
to
just
first
a second
responders.
Here,
Would you like
hold
to
on,
address
this
that to
moment.
kick us off?
Try to fast forward.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks for having me. And by the way, thanks for getting another
We're
great
a
Atlas
third
V
through the
to the
file.
launch pad to give us a ride. I would like to respond to it. In these challenging times, it's never been more clear the importance of first responders to our whole society. And I'd also like to add a thanks to the women and men in uniform, because our U.S. defense
Oh, here we
posture
go.
hasn't
Yeah,
changed,
we
and they
got
haven't
it.
backed
Here it
off of
comes.
yet.
In the context of this being a classified program, what can you share with us about what the X-37B is and does?
Well, X-37B is a really interesting machine. It's a reusable spacecraft. It is autonomous. It flies without crew. It can be rapidly reconfigured to host a wide variety of experiments.
Wow.
And it can
no.
take
Things we
off from
do.
standard launch
Here we
pads
go.
and standard rockets under fairings. And it can land
Wow.
autonomously
Oh,
through
God,
public
it's
airspace.
Wow.
beautiful.
You add all that
That's
up, there's a lot of
amazing.
innovation in this machine.
This is the 6th mission for
The
the
actual shot's a bit
X-37B
taller
orbital
than our
test
view
vehicle.
screen.
Can you tell us a little bit about the
Yes,
history of the
I'm in.
program?
History of the
It's hard
program
to it's hard to see with the glare.
Boeing developed this as a system for the U.S. Air Force, and it's flown 5
Yeah.
times.
Uh-huh.
Each flight has been successively longer, setting a record for duration. The last flight was 780 days, start to finish, which is a long time in space.
Oh, it's shaky.
If you add up all the
Oh, no.
missions,
Yeah.
just under 8 years in orbit and 1 billion miles. So a lot of traveling by this machine.
And then immediately into the clouds.
Hosted a wide variety of experiments and kind of advanced the state
Yeah,
of the art.
I think that's
in
it.
both
That's
Right
it.
into
reusable
the
vehicles
All right, we got to
and,
pack up,
experiments.
everybody. We'll keep this going for a minute,
Tell us some
eh?
of the unique firsts for this
Shall
mission.
we put it back to the ULA
This
stream?
mission
And
is
we'll pack up very
really
quickly, though.
interesting in
So
that it's
thank
the
you
first
guys
time
so
we've
much for
flown a
joining us.
service module. The
Really
service
appreciate
module
you all
extends
being
the
here.
vehicle
You have
capability
no
to
idea.
host more payloads.
This is a labor of
So-
love.
so this is the
if you
most
want
we've
to
ever
join
carried
us,
on
we're
an
going to start
X-37
doing this for every single launch. We have a
One of the
Starlink
things we're
launch.
carrying on that
Sounds
service
like
module, which can
really early
release
on Tuesday
independent
morning.
satellites, is
Just
a
go to
satellite built by- designed and built by
cosmicperspective.com.
the cadets
Sign
at
up
the
for
US
our
Air Force
email
Academy.
newsletter. That's the
So
best
they've
way.
built it,
Follow us
we'll
on
release it,
social
and they'll
media.
get- they'll
Consider
get
the
a lot of
cosmos
learning out of
is
that and a lot of science.
our tagline almost
There's a
everywhere.
couple other things I find real interesting.
And if
on
you
this
just
one.
want to support
The
what
Naval
we're
Research
doing,
Lab has an
then
experiment
please become a
to turn
Patreon
solar
supporter.
energy into
It
RF
means
energy
the
that can
world
be
to
beamed
us.
Earth.
It keeps us
Very early
going,
research
puts gas in the
project,
tank,
but long-term great
and
potential. Very
you get to be
exciting
part of
kind
like a
thing this
behind-the-scenes
machine was built
discussion
to do.
before any of this
And
happens.
even
All right,
NASA,
thanks guys so
in
much.
this- in
Have a
this-
wonderful
this
day.
machine is a great blend of defense and
See you
research.
next time.
NASA has a seed experiment on this flight, and the idea is they've collected a lot of data on the space station around radiation effects on seeds. Long-term human trips would require some agriculture. X-37B can go some places the station doesn't go, collect different kind of radiation, and our payload bay can be a different kind of shielding. So they'll get more data to complete their set.
Some might say the X-37B looks similar to a space shuttle. What are some of those similarities and differences?
Well, a similarity is the shape. You could say that the X-37B stands on the shoulders of the space shuttle. It is a winged reentry vehicle. It's about a quarter, 25% scale of a space shuttle. An interesting fact a lot of people don't know is we modified the orbiter processing facilities. The actual hangars the space shuttles flew in and out of are the homes of the X-37B. So that, that's pretty interesting, from a common shape to a common home in the hangar. Differences, the X-37B is autonomous. The X-37B is more rapidly reconfigurable